So in fact we've got 3 boards directly connected to the origin and 2 subboards. So it's 5 boards in all. So I think I lead through the tests with some explanation. I've just watched it through. I think it hangs together. The origin is in the basement. Started at that board and I started with the easy circuits first, which were 2 sub-mains. Low-hanging fruit, a 16mm and a 25mm 3-phase sub-main, is that my neutral was... I tested the whole of live because there were things going on in the building that required the other circuits. So this is the reason why in some of the instances I disconnect the circuit completely from the board, which you wouldn't have to do if you could just isolate the board. Because of that inherent connection between neutral and earth upstream at the origin, I have to disconnect them for some of the tests in a way that you wouldn't have to otherwise. So I've done the 2 rings, I've done the 2 sub-mains, and I looked at a very small light circuit. This very small light circuit turned out to be a complete nightmare. It had 3 lines, a 1.5 line, I think 1 or 1.5. It had 3 neutrals, and I never found the neutral that actually was doing the business, so I plucked out 2 other neutrals. It had 2 contactors, which had been at one point wired into the circuit and made it quite complicated to follow where the conductors were going. But
so I'm going to have to see if that's a circuit that comes up from the distribution board downstairs, and whereabouts that's situated. For now, keep the circuits on. Go and turn everything on around the building and try and identify what, for instance, they call the lounge room lights. These are the light switches for here. This is where some more fun begins. Up here, where you see what... This is why I hate suspended ceilings, because just look at it. And this isn't, I don't think, the worst either. It just going through these bare cut steel with no protection at all and pulled through. There's every chance they've stripped the sheathing, pulling them through. And what a mess. Just look at it. Junction box here. There's some MICC cable. I guess that's for the fire alarm, but some of it seems to come out of one of the fan isolators. Still, we'll have a peek here if necessary, but I guess if it all tests out okay. That big armoured there is the main feed to the kitchen distribution board, which I haven't even looked at yet. So I'll carry on turning all the lights on and identifying circuits. So that one's never going to turn on because it's an old fluoro. This, but wired into the old fluoro is an air filter. Emergency lights will be past their sell-by date, I should think. The batteries will have expired. Turn these on. Nothing came on with that last set of switches. Those are working. Switches. Right, the stairway. Remember those old lights? 60s, I think, probably. And these on. Morning, Ben. Morning. Yeah. Right. So we do have power here. So that WC is, for now, is a mystery on the outside lights. Reception and manager's office and entry lobby. That seems to be this area here. There's another light switch in here, which if I turn that on, go and flip that switch, and we've identified this area. However, the WCs is a mystery. Rear hall and WCs, that probably is that one. Rear hall and WCs. And there's a mixture of upstairs and downstairs lighting. Yeah, these have all gone off now, and WCs are dead. Just put my ladder away, and this push rod here has located in the wrong place because the pin fell out and it's completely bent it, unlike this side. So that will have to come off and be rebent, which is a pain in the arse. Okay, where am I going? I've got to go and get an earth leak meter, because while I've got everything on there, if I do an earth leak test with a meter, I'll have some idea as to what I'm going to expect on the insulation resistance. Instructions, won't need them. I don't have any AAAs on the van. It's so sensitive, when you disturb it, it goes up to 0.2 milliamps. There's no zeroing facility. Thank you. 17.17 milliamps through this earth conductor, which is one of 3 that come out of the bottom here. 2 go off into the floor and 1 goes into the suspended ceiling. 17 milliamps is quite a high reading, and that's only with the lights on. So if I switch the lights off, right, with the power off, that's 0.1 milliamps. Power on, 31, it goes up to 31 milliamps there. So let's isolate all the lighting circuits and see where that's coming from. Right, the lights off have taken it down to 22 milliamps. Take the kitchen off as well. 23, 24 and 22. Right. The kitchen takes it down to 0.23. So if I put the kitchen back on, it jumps up to 30 at the moment. And let's put all the lights back on. And we've only got 5.5. It, to an extent, it just familiarises us with the installation. The feed to the kitchen is in 16mm, and the feed to the lift is in, and they're both 50 amps, but the feed to the lift is in 25mm, and then the feed to this whole board is 25mm. All the earth conductors are 16mm. Right, I've set up the signal generator onto one of the lines that go down through the floor. We've got nothing down here yet. So I'll go and swap it over and try again. It might be that one going through the floor. As opposed to the other one, which at this location is 420, this is giving me 800s into the 800 and 900s. So we've sussed which one it is. So that's identified my main earth conductor in this board. Right, so now we're ready to do the ZS test. If I can stuff the probe up into the very tight terminations there. 0.10, 2.37 kiloamps on the PFC. And yellow phase, 0.09 and 2.51 kiloamps. And the red phase, 0.1 again, 2.35 kiloamps. PFC between the phases I'm going to do with the board energized, because it's going to be a lot easier that way. I can access the phases from up here. Notice that the main conductor has Viro already on it as a marking for the previous installer. It'll be tricky to get these back in with this hole. I'll make it easier. There we are. So yeah, it's marked with a biro line there. So we are correct with that. Now the PFC between phases. Blue and yellow phase. 0.13 ohm, 3 kiloamp. Blue and red phase. 0.15 ohms, 2.72 kiloamp. Red and yellow phase. 0.11 ohms, 3.58 kiloamp, sorry. I've left out 2 fuses because they have the wrong rating. They've put 32 amp fuse in a 5 amp fuse, with a 1.5mm cable, and the other one I can't remember, but I think they've put a 16 amp in a 10 amp. Anyway, it's 1.5mm. But that is, until we come around to do the final circuits here, that's that board done. It is the only subboard. The other 3 are directly connected to the origin. There are 3 boards connected to the origin, and 1 board, the 4th, which is connected to one of those boards. So it becomes a subboard. I get the ZE from the origin, I get the ZS at each distribution board, and I've got that for this one. But for the subboard, I'm going to take an R1, R2 reading and add it to the ZS at dB for that board. The reason being, I want to cut out as much as possible parallel paths to get a true reading for the ZS at dB at that board. Then for the fault current, I'll reconnect all those parallel paths, because for the fault current, it's maximum current, i.e. the minimum resistance, that is the danger. Whereas the ZE, it's the maximum resistance which we go on. That is the worst case scenario for disconnection of supply. So I've disconnected the 3 phases of neutral from the kitchen subboard. I'm going to cross-link them 1 phase at a time to earth and get my R1, R2 readings for all 3 phases. What I've done here is I've connected the earth for the kitchen subboard to all 3 of the phases, so I can just go in the kitchen subboard now and test each phase in turn against earth and get my R1, R2s for the red, the yellow and the blue phases. Red, 0.08, yeah. Yellow, 0.13, 0.12. And 0.09 for the blue. So yellow, still a very low reading, but higher than the other 2. We just need to go and take the clamps off the other end, put this to 500 volts and do a insulation resistance test. Insulation resistance then. For the red phase, quite a low reading, that 180, 190. Yellow, 514 mega ohm. Blue, 322 mega ohm. 182 mega ohm. Yellow, 486 mega ohm. Blue, 314 mega ohm. I'm still climbing. So fairly low. Now the neutral, as we disconnected neutral to earth. They're still connected somewhere up. I'm only getting 2.61 mega ohm between earth and neutral. So neutral and red phase, we up to about 180. Neutral and yellow phase, 480. Neutral and blue phase, 309 mega ohm. I'm just going to finish off the insulation resistance by testing phase to phase at this end because it's easier. Phase 1 and 3, 460. Phase 2 and 3, 800. Phase 1 and 2, 650. There's no one here today, but there was the other day, and I should have really locked off the ring that I took apart. here. I should have locked it off. I didn't, because I hadn't got my lock-off kit in the van, and I just can't find it at all. So before I get any complaints, I've ordered another one, but they don't have any in stock at cities at the moment. I've got to go to Chichester. But I know I've got two somewhere. Anyway, I have identified the third earth conductor, and that is the supply for this board, and then the supply for the lift motor room. The supply for the lift motor room goes from here down on the eastern side, this west here, the eastern side of the building, on this armour here. The supply to here comes up on the west side. So, lift motor room. No light working in here, but there is this board here, and so the east side of the building is the far side. We see the incomer for the board upstairs. So this is where the board is, because the armour disappears down here. I'm quite glad I found this. And this armour here is a 25mm again that feeds this isolator, and which we will take an R1, R2 reading from, because it is a final circuit from the last board, even though it's feed for this. We'll disconnect everything up there, or maybe we won't, because it's 25mm, isn't it? So that'd be a limitation. But we can't take the neutral out, but we can take the lines from the MCBs, and we can do an R1, R2 test. And I have isolated upstairs at the MCB, and there's nobody up there, so I can press this interlock safely to engage these terminals so that I can test from these terminals. Just to make sure, I am going to carry out a voltage test across the phases. Here are my three phases connected up to earth here, and yes, there will be a bit of resistance in this wire, but it won't be very much, and the overwhelming bulk of the result will be true. So now I'm going to go up and do the R1, R2s, and we'll swap this from the earth to the neutral in here, and carry out the R1, Rn test. Yeah, that will be to ascertain the continuity of the earth, three phases, and the neutral. Just ready to do the R1, R2 for the three phases now. I could have connected the neutral down there, I didn't think of it, so then we could have done all of it at the same time. So, just to make the colours right, earth bar, and now phase 1, R1, R2, 0.03, phase 2, 0.03, phase 3, 0.05. One thing I didn't mention while I was up there was the motor cable is 2.5mm flex, that little tail that comes out the bottom of the isolator, and of course the isolator's fused down to 63 amps, but there's no further fusing down for the motor 2.5 flex. So that's going to be a C2, because it's not danger, it's a danger in fault conditions. So it's not a danger to anyone, normal working condition when everything's alright, but it is a danger should a fault develop, a short circuit say, on the motor. Because then you'd have 63 amps unimpeded, up to 63 amps flowing through that 2.5mm cable. And that's going to require its own little three-phase board just for the motor, which is a lot of money. It's got to be done. Now, we're going to swap from the earth onto the neutral. You see how they've just taken the motor feed, which must have been tempting to do, straight out of their bottom of the isolator with 63 amp fuses. Insulation resistance now. So phase 1, 159 mega ohm. Phase 2 against earth, 188 mega ohm. 134 mega ohm. There's going to be nothing between, no resistance between earth and neutral because of parallel paths, and it's joined up anyway, so I haven't disconnected it. So, but between neutral and phases, you should have about the same. 158 mega ohm. Phase 2, 188 mega ohm. Phase 3, 134 mega ohm between neutral and line. So now I have tested the lift room submain, kitchen submain, and that ring in there that I did the other day. So we've done 3 of these now. What's next then? Well, entrance lights is a small little circuit. Entrance lights, just 6 downlighters, operated from a grid switch. There'll be a, that's the one there. There will be a switched live and a neutral, and there should be an earth. So CPC, we should be able to get a ZS reading off one of them. Then from the other end, from the board, do a insulation resistance between CPC and the 2 live conductors joined together. Interesting. Okay, being a grid switch, we've got to dismount these armatures in order to get to any of the conductors. What I'll go and do now is isolate this circuit. The rest won't be isolated. Okay, there we are. That all looks good. I've got a chocolate box connector in here, which you can't see, which is just joining some neutrals together. I think it's all the neutrals. I can see out there, and I'll show you in a bit what the cables look like above the loads full ceiling. But for now, onto the earth and onto switch 5. It's calculating, and we've got 0.49. The reason I didn't go from end of line on these lights and only the first one is because the first one is still connected to twin and earth, which has the CPC on it. From there on, they use flex and they've cut the CPC, and there's no CPC in the second and third lights. So this is what we end up with. I can get a macro, can't get a macro. But, you see it's been cut here. And have a little look at the workmanship of the cabling in here. There's no support all the way down the wall above this suspended or this levered ceiling. There's the original ceiling up there, and the original top of the door frame as well. So that's all just free hanging. Should be okay, but 0.63 ohms. 0.63 ohms. Number 8. We've got 3 conductors joined in. We're going to go between that and earth. So yeah, we'll take these out. Sometimes my thinking is a bit woolly around insulation resistance with neutral and earth and what's going to affect it. So the thing to remember is that if it's stuck in here, it's joined at the intake. It's joined, or if not at the intake, then in the ground, because the earth is what nails this down. Now, because there's 2 neutral in there, and then there were 3 of these line. The 2 line, these 2 are the ones that I've just done the ZS test on, and now earth is fine, so I can join that and test against earth. Head torch is dying. $500. Brilliant. So we've got neutral and line against earth, giving us sod all. Well, I've come here to the switch, and as you can see, there's a CPC here that's pulled out, and this is completely loose. The screw's not done up at all. So whatever those are no longer connected to each other and the armature. I am at a loss to understand why I've got no resistance between the CPC and the 2 live conductors. I'm going to test the CPC against line next and see if it's something to do with the neutral. So now I'm going to test between CPC and line. And I'm going to see if there's something stopping it, isn't there? It's like some piece of gadgetry in that circuit. Let's try between neutral and line now. Same thing. We've got we've got very little insulation resistance between that and that. And of course, with not having any RCDs, that wouldn't have affected the operation of the thing. But if this were to be replaced and put RCDs in, that is going to cause a problem. Now here comes my woody thinking on the IR front. I don't really understand how this can be happening or where that can be happening. So what I'm going to do is take, and this might be woolly thinking, but I'm going to take out the CPC separately, just in case it's something to do with one of the other CPCs. It looked like it was loose, but it's not. Okay, so we're expecting 2 to be in there, aren't we? And so, yeah, there are 2, no, there's 3. Connected that through to the line, and connect this through to that CPC, and see 500 volts. What's going to happen here? Going to get a reading? Negative. We're not going to get any reading from that one. We're going to get any reading from this one. So it is in the circuit. It's nothing to do with the board. Nothing there. And nothing there either. So it could be in a junction box or something like that. But we've just got no reading between line and earth. Let's try the neutral in the same vein. Again, woolly thinking, meaning I don't actually understand what I would be doing if I did this. Last thing to do is to untwist these 2 wires, or conductors as we call them. Untwist these 2 and individually test them against the earth block, and then if there's nothing on the earth block, to test against the CPCs themselves. I'm not testing against CPCs themselves because it seems to be a leak to earth anyway, which comes through on that bar. So just for the purposes of this, that's on one of them. I'm still getting nothing. And on the other one, nothing. Still. I'm on circuit number 8 still, which is the entrance lights. I managed successfully to disconnect 2 of the, the only 2 neutral conductors which were leading into termination 8 of the neutral bar. I also disconnected all 3 of the CPCs, and they all with an R2 lead. As you can see, I've got an R2 lead on here. I've tested to the switch, and they all give readings of about 1.76 on the CPC, so they're all connected to the light switch. So there's 3 CPCs. There's a neutral somewhere in there, even though I've disconnected the 2 that came out of the corresponding termination, which was number 8 there. And then I have disconnected 2 line out of the 3 that were in number 8. And number 8 itself I've traced. It goes up here, through here, and it goes into a contactor where it is terminated, and another conductor comes in and comes all the way back and ends up going through back up this piece of twin and earth just at the back of there. So it seems that at some point they've used the switch to actuate a contactor, but there seem to be quite a few conductors missing from the contactor, so whatever was connected to the contactor is not connected any longer, and just all the various light switches that were arranged to operate the contactors are still going in there and just being used as dummy. There is one switch out on the grid switch outside that does operate this contactor though, and it comes on with a red neon. So pretty confusing picture, but in any case the whole circuit is shot because it doesn't have any insulation resistance. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn the circuit on, energize the circuit, and then I'm going to use the earth leakage tester to sample the earth leakage through these 3 CPCs that all come from the light. Right, the circuit is now energized, and the 3 CPCs that we've got here are joined to the earth bar using this crocodile contraption. I'm now going to use the this to measure the
earth leakage, and the earth leakage is 0.8 amps. So 887 milliamps, nearly an amp. And I'm wondering if I can further identify anything by splitting off those CPCs and seeing which one it's coming down. But from my previous investigations, it should all be coming down through all three of them. First of our final circuit seems to have been a bit of a nightmare, with 3 CPCs, at least 2 neutrals, which aren't in the right termination for the neutral bar, and seemingly 3 lines, 2 of which they do not hold voltage at the moment, and I've Wagoed them off. That one, which goes, I think that one's the one that goes up. That's one that went to one of the contactors, and the other one is here somewhere. The other one is Wagoed off, and that goes up in twin earth, up here somewhere. Not a very satisfactory result, because when we come to revisit the circuit afterwards, we're going to have to further investigate it and really start from scratch. I think I'm going to recommend that circuit is rewired, because sometimes it's just easier to rewire than to try and work out what on earth has been going on. Ring circuit lounge. So I think that's the craft room in there. So I'm going to call this the lounge for now and see if this is the lounge. Let's turn something on and see if it... There we go. That's on there. Ring main lounge. Number 6. Number 6 is blue phase. And that's turned it off, so... disappears behind this radiator in mini trunking. I think it goes through the wall there. I don't know how it gets from there to there though. Looks like 2 twin and earth going up behind there possibly. And the answer is it doesn't come on. So that might be on the same circuit. This one does, so yeah, I think that is on the same circuit as the other side of the wall. Now, yeah, so manager's office is not on that circuit. They've gone through the wall somewhere, here, into the other side. There we are. So yeah, you can see it comes in through some white conduit there. In my case, these are Klein wire cutters. Gone like that. That's from being kept in the van, I guess. Anyway, I need some long nose pliers, which I haven't got out yet. Here we go. And all I'm going to do is take the neutral out, but while we're down at the neutrals, I just thought I'd show you. These are only for sort of a maximum of 6mm, I guess. Yeah, drilled out. They've split the end of the 16mm cable here, wrapped insulating tape around it, and then pushed it into three of these, or maybe 2 of these terminals. So terminated it in tension because it's 16mm plugged into there. They've managed to get it into the bottom one though. They've managed to get some 16mm into the bottom one there. Oh no, sorry, correction, that's the lift. That is the lift neutral, that's 25mm. So they've got the 16mm there. Taking the lounge ring circuit out, and of course it's got to be twisted together like this. Number 6 down here. Doesn't look like it's twisted. We'll take that out. And number 6, it's all labelled nicely. That is twisted together, unfortunately, so that means re-terminating it when I take it all out, which is a pain in the butt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them back into their respective terminations here, and I'll go and split it and do the tests from one of the sockets, because otherwise I'm getting into a lot of untwisting and re-terminating, which I don't want to do because it's not very good for the installation. Of course, what are the chances it's twisted together at the sockets as well? Because that's
That would be a pain, wouldn't it? Bet it is. Bet it is. Let's have a look. No, first thing I see is the two CPCs aren't. So maybe in with some last arrangement. So I can get to the screws from above. It's Benjamin Britten. Right. They are Crabtree accessories. Nice. I like it. Good, solid, and you can get to the top of these. Really nicely made, and you can get a large screwdriver in as well. Good acoustics in here. So here are my legs for me to do my leg stuff with. I'm going to need to re-terminate this because they're a bit mashed in places. Some is solid, some is stranded. And yeah, because the mattress box isn't very deep, it's been bearing on the sheathing, and you can feel the dents where this sort of thing's been forced back. So this also shows how, and it goes down behind the skirting board and under the floor. So I won't be able to see how they've done that, but I was thinking it was going over the top, but it didn't. It's going under the floor. Right, zero the leads. Good. Try the CPC first. 0.70. Okay, so you'd expect these to be about 0.45, something like that. A bit higher. 0.58. 0.6. Line and neutral. Put these down somewhere, the others. It's quite easy to see here where the legs are, and it isn't in the consumer unit. Why was he offering to do that?
Because he was...
He was going to put another ceiling 50mm lower than this, to clean it all up. And then, and he could get all the materials free.
Yeah. All of the materials free? Yeah, I was going to say, like, when he was saying, we're getting anything free, I was thinking...
Where did he come from?
The car park.
Just the car park. Random tradesman walks in from car park office to put new ceiling in for free, with free materials, 50mm lower than the original ceiling. Sometimes your mind goes and you think you know what you're doing and you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes your mind just goes. This needs to go somewhere else now to test it all. So now if this is all plugged in right, so neutral and line, 0.35 ohm. 0.35, remember that? So that was R1 plus Rn, and now this is R1 plus R2. 0.54. So you'd expect that to be higher because the Earth is smaller. Okay, insulation testing. I have prepared the other ends of this in the consumer unit by taking the neutral and CPC out of their terminations. Line and CPC. It's going up to about 600, it's going to go higher, 650, 660, 680, 680 mega ohms. Now between line and neutral, if there's anything plugged in, we'll put it into 250 volts. I think there is something over there, isn't there, plugged in? So I'm just going to plug it in. And I'm getting a good reading on that of greater than 999 mega ohm. And then between neutral and Earth, or CPC, we're getting... It's going to go up to 999, isn't it? Yeah. So I wonder why we don't have 999 on Earth to CPC to R1. We do. We do now, look. Greater than 999. So, happy with that? That's a result. Well, that day was about 3 or 4 hours, so I've made a good start. It's Friday, and I'm starting here in earnest on Monday. Just thought I'd show you this tool belt.
goes over your shoulders and doesn't pull your trousers down. These, so it's got masses of space and a hanger on the back, 6-inch bandsaw or anything like that. As I say, it takes all the weight from your shoulders. Well, I don't like the feeling of belts around my waist because it's a tight spot, it gets hot and sweaty and so on. It's got loads of space for tools. We put the tools in. The way I do it is I have it empty, and as I use stuff, I put it down in the tool belt. It means that I end up with all the tools I'm using at the time, and I don't walk around looking for something that I've put down, because I've inevitably put it down in the tool belt. Okay, what did we say it was? 0.5 and 0.9, wasn't it? So, 0.5. 1.4 divided by 4 is 0.35. We should be looking for 0.35 here for this ring, buddy. Something's wrong. Help, is it? No, I won't be able to do anything with the multi-link system. I know, that's true. Try this. There we are, 0.33. So obviously these two here are not from that ring. So another case of missing identity of terminations, which is a pile of wank. Let me turn the light on, you can see. 0.33, there we go. And that is off the earth bar, not the two legs that we've selected from the number 4. Lastly, before I pack up, I'm going to do insulation test on line and earth. Good 250 on that. 258. Yeah, there's something plugged in. Insulation test between live conductors. A good 340 and rising. 340 and rising. Okay, well that's it from me for this part of the EICR. Hit subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.